going on, guys? Evil Dragon here, back with another video, and today I wanted to discuss the Five Nights at Freddy's 2 movie. Obviously, there's going to be spoilers I'm going to go into, but what I want to talk about is that there has been a lot of stuff I've seen on like Reddit and Instagram and TikTok about how the movie was bad. A lot of people don't seem to like it. There are main parts that people don't like about it, and I want to argue those points because it just seems like the points that have been argued and that I've seen could be argued very easily for why they did it in a movie rather than, the games or the books. And I want to kind of look at what they changed, why. Like I said, I like the movie. I just want to kind of delve into my own opinion for it. And so, really quick, what my own opinion is that while I think the first movie was still better, I think the best parts in the second movie were better than the best parts in the first movie. And I think the worst parts in the first movie were worse than the worst parts in the second movie. But overall, the first movie was still stronger. That's my point. I think I'd give it maybe, I don't know, if we're going at a 10, I think the first movie for me, just being as a fan, I've read, the books, I've played most of the games and beaten most of the games. I think I would give the first one like an 8 and this one a 7. I don't know, just in terms of like, video game movies. Anyways, here's my opinion on why, or at least some of the points that I have in my opinion on why they were changed or were the way they were. Starting off, how Charlotte, or Charlie is the name of the girl in the books, who is, the creator Henry's daughter, and whatever, she dies. She becomes a puppet. That is canon to the games, not the books, but that's canon to the games. And, however, she is kind of like the savior of, the missing children's incident. She, gives gifts, gives life, and then helps them with the happiest day. You see her at the end there, blah, blah, blah. And so, that's who she is. But here she is being the bad guy, wanting to take out her anger on the adults that did not help her when she was, seeing a little boy get kidnapped by William Afton, and then she herself lost her life to him. And now she wants revenge on all the adults throughout the movie. That's kind of what, the whole thing is. She's the antagonist, which doesn't make sense for her character. Here's my thing, though. There's also another vengeful spirit in the games that we know of, who is very mad at William Afton for taking her life. And so not just, not adults, because there's no adults that go around them in the games, but whatever. And so what she does is she, puts him into his own personal hell, which is Ultimate Custom Night. And there is spirit, and they take control of another animatronic, and that's Cassidy taking control of Golden Freddy, to my knowledge. Again, I know the books, especially the Fazbear Frights, are a little bit different, but Cassidy is the one in the games, at least up to like the 7th game, who is in Golden Freddy, and who puts William Afton in his own personal hell. That's that, and, vengeful spirit wants to get revenge against an adult, not all the adults, an adult. And then here you have a vengeful spirit, Charlie, in the movie, who wants to get revenge against adults. And now the reason why I think they just swapped the two characters, because as well, at the end of the film, we see, I'm pretty sure it has been confirmed to be Golden Freddy's spirit from the first movie. I believe because, this was the kid, the ghost, who was there meeting Abby in the first movie to take her back to Freddy's, and now he is the ghost that appears at the end to say he can't hold him back any longer. He's talking about Springtrap, of course, getting stronger, blah, blah, blah. And so, again, they kind of just swapped the roles of the puppet and Golden Freddy in the film, which, again, I don't think, people clearly didn't like that, but when you look at more in depth, that's what they did. They just, people are like, oh, why is she evil? Why is this? You just got to look a little bit more in depth and say, oh, they made Golden Freddy the one holding, Springtrap back and being the kind of the good guy. Because, he brings all the animatronics together to fight the toy ones. And then they made Charlie, instead of being the give gifts, give life, the savior, she was the one being upset and mad and the angry spirit. I think that's completely fine. They just did a big swap. That's fine. So yeah, that's my first opinion on the first point. Like I said, I don't think it should be such a highly debated topic. They don't want it to be exactly, one for one for the games, one for one for the, the films. Plus, because this is the second movie, so, it uses the Twisted One second book, a lot of their details very heavily. It uses the second game's lore very heavily. It's also the reason why the toy animatronics are so aggressive, is literally in the game, the second game, Phone Guy talks about how the second animatronics, the toy animatronics, are being very aggressive and weird to the staff, just kind of stopping and staring where they're around, or being a little bit physically imposing, whereas with the kids, they act completely fine, as we see in the film. The animatronics are trying to hunt adults, kind of like how, again, they were very aggressive to the adults in the, the movie, or in the games. And then with the children like Abby or the other kids at the science fair, they were being polite, Toshiki was being friendly, wasn't doing anything wrong, whatever. Just when the, the teacher came up, she was kind of being weird, and then of course she kills the teacher. So again, I think that's why they use that point for that there. So again, So far, they've just done a swap for some of the points that people have been mad at. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And then they've also just kind of gone with the game lore of making the reason, they gave a more in-depth reason, instead of just them being tampered with the toy animatronics, there's a more in-depth reason as to why the toys are so aggressive to the adults, like in the games. Another point I've seen is that Michael Afton was ruined. Of course, in the lore of FNAF, especially in the games, he's, you know, the savior. He goes from location to location trying to clean up William Afton's messes, gets scooped, but then, you know, FNAF 6 comes back as the security guard supposedly, tries to put everything right, wants to make sure everyone's collected, all the animatronics, and then burned down, blah, blah, blah. But here's the thing, again, it's just another swap, because in the games, Vanessa, or it becomes Vanny, of course, and helps William Afton, or I guess by this point Springtrap and Glitchtrap and all that, trying to do evil things and trying to continue his legacy. Like Michael Afton literally says, he's trying to continue his father's legacy in the film. So, again, I don't get there's anything wrong with that, because now in the film, instead of Vanessa being bad and Vanny and all that, Vanessa is now the good person trying to stop her father, and Michael Afton is now trying to join, you know, her father. Obviously, I don't believe Vanessa is related to William Afton at all in the games. I'm not quite, you know, she was a game dev in VR. It's been a while since I looked at the lore, but even if she's not related, she's related in the fact that she, you know, joins him and does stuff for him, blah, blah, so they're related in that fact, maybe not blood related or anything, family related. But still, regardless, they just did another swap. Two characters related to William Afton. One was, you know, close to him and wanted to join him and support him, and one was against him, trying to fight him back. Wait, again, Michael Afton, Vanessa, now they just swapped. Vanessa's trying to fight him, Michael Afton joined him. Again, yes, it, you know, does it take away his character from the game? Sure, but this is the movie lore, this is the movie canon. It can be different. And like I said, you have the two, again, literally just the exact same two characters, evil spirit, you know, saving spirit, they swap the roles. You know, you have supporter of William Afton, a non-supporter, and, you know, someone trying to stop Afton, just swapping. I think it makes sense. I think it's fine. It's just, yeah, look a little bit more in depth there. And then I think the final thing that people were a little bit confused by and why it was there, and people were like, oh, you know, this is super stupid for FNAF, is there was the giant at the end, the giant fight, you know, Mike Schmidt goes to the old Freddy's location, the first one from the first film, says, hey, I need everybody's help, please, you know, come help, Abby's in danger. He goes back to the second location, or sorry, not the second location, his house where Abby was taken by, you know, Angry Charlotte, the puppet, whatever, and then eventually she calls the toys to them, Michael Afton calls the toys to them, but then, oh, here we go, the original, you know, core 4, Freddy, Foxy, Bonnie, Chica, they show up, and they have an animatronic brawl, and take down the toy animatronics. People were, in my own theater, I was like, what the heck was that, stupid, whatever. It's literally a thing that happens in the books, because in the books, Michael was one of the childhood friends of Charlie and all the other kids, in the, you know, the Silver Eyes and Twisted Ones book. And so, you know, they were talking to him, you know, someone talked to him, he was the one in Golden Freddy. Anyways, moving on, in the second film, or second book, it all ends up with a climax of, you know, Charlie and all our friends, like John and the one cop and everybody, they're being pinned down by, you know, a bunch of the new animatronics, what are called the Twisted Ones. And then all of a sudden, you know, they're not quite the toy ones, but whatever. All of a sudden, then the original Core 4, it's been a while since I've read the book, I don't quite remember why, but they show up and they have an animatronic ball. Like, Freddy takes down a whole bunch of different, you know, Balloon Boy kids and whatever else. And Foxy takes on the wolf, I think, if I remember. And so, again, literally something that happens in the book, they just moved it and shifted it into the movie, but to support the movie's narrative. Which, again, I don't think is a bad thing, and I think it fit really well for what they were trying to do, you know. Again, they changed it so that everything would fit and work properly, and I think it worked really well. But yeah, those are the biggest things I've seen online, and I hope I argued my point. I hope I made some of you, if you know, whoever watches this, and you didn't quite agree with it at first, maybe I hopefully change your opinion a little bit more just to see the narrative they were trying to go with. Any more stuff, I might make another follow-up video if I just see like more people be like, oh, this was stupid and this was stupid. It was just these big things that I've seen is like, again, why was Charlie the bad guy, or Charlotte, you know, why was Michael ruined, why was there an animatronic brawl, all this stuff. And again, it just fits everything. They just swapped characters, swapped their roles, stuff that happened and was considered weird happens in the books, so I think it's fine. But yeah, like I said, I like the movie. I think it was good. Again, I hope you guys changed some of your opinions. Let me know in the comments down below. And without further ado, maybe leave a like as well. Maybe hit that subscribe button, hit the little bell, and I'll see y'all next time for some more random videos like this. Bye, everybody.